This is how we do it. This is how we do it. You just did a phase shift. This is how we do it. Now we're going to graph it out. This is how we do it. So we just did the phase shift, and now we're going to do that part. This is how we do it. All right, so let's go to do this thing. So for example, 6, we just did finding the phase shift. And now this time we're going to, for example, 7, we're going to not only find the phase shift, but we're also going to graph it out. So, for example, 7, we're going to find the phase shift. This is how we do it. The phase shift. And then we're going to graph. All right. So we got the phase shift, and then we're going to graph it out too. And we're going to use this equation to see how everything flows. Plus pi. All right. So when we do this, we're going to go ahead and actually write this down and actually find the phase shift. We're going to find the period. We're going to find all those great things, new tick marks, everything. And then we're going to graph it out. So first off, since we're talking about phase shift, let's going to find that part. So we need to find what our C is. We need to find out what our K is. And then we can do our phase shift, which is the negative C over K. All right, cool. All right, so looking at this part, we kind of already know, we should know what K is. We know what C is by just looking at it. So we know C is pi. K right here is, looking at this portion right here, remember that's understood 1 right there. So it is a 1/2, 1 over 2. Then theta is actually something else. Remember, theta is not part of K. Theta is in front of K, but not K. K is in front of theta. So if K is in front of theta, that means that 1/2 is the K. Okay. K, okay. Yeah. All right, so here we're going to do the negative pi over the K, which is 1/2. We're going to do keep, change, flip. So we kept the pi, made it negative, kept the pi, and then multiplied by the reciprocal, which is 1 over 2, flipped is 2 over 1. All right, and then we get negative 2 pi for our phase shift. So that means that our graph is going to move left 2 pi. Again, remember that C right here goes opposite of what you think, so it's positive, so that means it goes to the left, and then that tells you how far to go. Or you can just look at the number here, it's negative 2 pi, this negative goes to the left, and then we go over 2 pi. All right, so with that, we got that part, we're good. All right, now before we actually can graph anything out, we got to find our period. Two pi over K, so 2 pi over 1/2. Remember, do keep, change, flip again. So that's 2 pi times 2 over 1, which is 4 pi. Also, with this, guys, you can say this is example 7, or you can say it's example 8. I'm going to put that up there too. It's up to you guys how you ever relate with this part, because you might have 2 example 6s, but this would be considered could be example 8 too. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So the numbers might be off a little bit, but it's okay. It's all good. All right, so here we're gonna go ahead and find our tick marks, new tick marks, real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and still do this off to the side. There's no amplitude here or vertical shift, so we don't have to worry about going up or down or anything of that sort. So we can keep this as we have it. But we will need to move it to the left, so we need to have some space over here on the left side so we can actually go ahead and graph that out. So I just did 2, well, about 3 in all both directions here, north and south, top and bottom. And then here we're going to have to move it to the left 2 pi. So we're going to, once we figure out our tick marks, we can be able to do all that. All right, so here we have 4 pi, which is our period. Remember, we divide that by 2 for our middle to find our middle one. Take the period divided by 2, which which is 2 pi. We take the, for the first one, sorry, we take that answer we got there, 2 pi, and divide it by 2 again. Gives us pi. And then the third one, remember, we just add these two together, which gets us 3 pi. All right, so here we're good on that. We got that going on. All right, so let's go ahead and graph. So with that, our first step was to label the graph, which we just did. And just make sure we do 1, 2, -1, -2. So we just labeled the graph, which is cool. We go ahead and graph out the parent function, which is next. A parent graph. So we know cosine is the function here. So it means we start at 0, 1. I'm going to do this dotted. All right. So the next thing would be amplitude. Oop, I keep forgetting that pen is not working. Ha. So amp, but there's none. We do a vertical shift is next, which there's none, because there's nothing in front of cosine. There's nothing back here, a plus or minus behind it. So there's none of those. And so the last thing is your phase shift. So with this, all we're going to do is removing this part here. We take the first one here, and we're going to move it until we get to that -2 pi. Move it over 2 pi. So before we do that, though, we have to make sure we label these parts over here. And so here, if you look at it, just like we did when it came to our parent graph originally, we said we're using these numbers, but we're just going to make them negative. So here, it was pi, so that's negative pi. Then it's 2 pi's next, so -2 pi. There's 3 pi's next, so it's -3 pi. And if we were to keep going on, that would be -4 pi over here. All right, so it's going to still mirror this part right here, but just make it negative. All right, so all we're going to do when it comes to our phase shift, choose right color. We say we're going to move left 2 pi, or we're going to go to -2 pi. So here we're going to start at this point that's at 0, 0, 1. We're going to go over until we get to 2 pi. So I went over 1, 2 to get to 2 pi, to the -2 pi part. Here, since that went over 1, 2, that means we need to move this over 1, 2. 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 So everything's going to move over the same amount of spaces. So everything's going to move the same amount. So if the first one moved over 2 times, that means everything's going to move over 2 times. And that first one is what you're going to use. Always use that first one. And here, phase shift is -2 pi. All right, so that's it, guys. That's how we're going to do it. That's how we graph it. Bam.